What if I told you that 5 Asian nations are on the verge of collapse in 2025, and that a 16th century prophet may have predicted it? Shocking as it sounds, Nostradamus's cryptic prophecies have been linked to wars, economic disasters, and political upheavals, many of which eerily align with what's happening today. As we step into 2025, some experts believe that Nostradamus's writings point to 5 specific Asian countries facing economic ruin, political chaos, or even total collapse. From financial crises to internal conflicts, the signs are impossible to ignore. Could these nations be standing at the edge of a historical turning point, just as Nostradamus predicted? Stay with us as we uncover the 5 Asian nations on the brink of collapse and reveal the shocking truth behind Nostradamus's prophecy. Before we begin, if you're new here, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. I am prepared for the future. Let's see how many of us are ready for what's coming. Now, let's dive in. Number 5. Sri Lanka, the economic domino effect. For centuries, Sri Lanka has been known as the Pearl of the Indian Ocean, a nation rich in culture, history, and natural beauty. But in recent years, this paradise has faced unrelenting economic turmoil, pushing it dangerously close to collapse. Nostradamus's cryptic verses mention a land surrounded by water, struggling with famine and unrest, a prophecy that eerily mirrors Sri Lanka's current state. Once a thriving economy, the country now finds itself battling crippling debt, political instability, and a worsening financial crisis. While 2022 marked its first economic collapse, experts fear that 2025 could bring an even more devastating downfall if urgent reforms are not made. One of the biggest triggers behind Sri Lanka's crisis is its staggering national debt. Over the years, the country borrowed heavily from foreign lenders, including China and the IMF, hoping to develop infrastructure and strengthen its economy. However, poor financial management, corruption, and global economic shifts left Sri Lanka unable to repay its massive loans. By 2022, the government defaulted on its external debt for the first time in history, leading to widespread shortages of food, fuel, and medicine. While the nation has attempted to stabilize its economy, rising inflation, lack of investor confidence, and slow economic growth suggest that Sri Lanka may not have seen the worst of its crisis yet. Could 2025 be the year when its fragile economy collapses completely? Beyond the financial struggles, political instability has further pushed Sri Lanka to the edge. The mass protests of 2022 saw angry citizens storming the presidential palace, forcing President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the country. While a new government was formed, deep-rooted corruption, lack of transparency, and public distrust remain serious threats to stability. Nostradamus's writings speak of a kingdom where leaders fail to restore order, leading to greater chaos, a warning that seems chillingly relevant to Sri Lanka today. If political leaders fail to implement bold economic reforms, rising civil unrest could escalate into a full-scale crisis by 2025. Could Sri Lanka be heading toward another wave of mass protests or even political collapse? Despite these dire predictions, some believe that Sri Lanka still has a chance to recover. Economic experts argue that proper debt restructuring, foreign investment, and sustainable agricultural policies could help the nation rebuild. However, time is running out. If Sri Lanka fails to act quickly, it may soon reach a point of no return, fulfilling Nostradamus's chilling prophecy of a nation struggling to stay afloat in a sea of economic and social disaster. Could 2025 be the year when Sri Lanka finally collapses, or will it defy fate and rise from the ashes? Only time will tell. Number 4. Pakistan, a nation on the edge of chaos. Pakistan, a nation of over 240 million people, stands at a critical crossroads. While its history is marked by resilience and determination, its future has never been more uncertain. Nostradamus's cryptic prophecies mention a land of warriors, torn apart by internal struggles and external pressures, a description that eerily matches Pakistan's current state. From economic collapse to political instability, rising terrorism, and natural disasters, the country faces multiple crises that could lead to an unprecedented downfall in 2025. Could Pakistan be on the verge of collapse? Let's take a deeper look at the factors pushing this once thriving nation toward disaster. A crumbling economy, the silent killer. Pakistan's economy is in freefall, weighed down by massive foreign debt, high inflation, and a shrinking middle class. Over the years, the country has relied heavily on loans from the International Monetary Fund, China, and other international lenders to keep its economy afloat. However, poor financial management, rampant corruption, and misallocation of resources have left Pakistan drowning in debt. By 2023, inflation had skyrocketed to historic highs, with basic necessities like flour, rice, and fuel becoming unaffordable for millions. The rupee continues to lose value, making imports more expensive and driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. The situation worsened when foreign reserves hit dangerously low levels, forcing Pakistan to negotiate bailout after bailout just to avoid defaulting on its debt. Nostradamus warned of a land where money loses its power, and the people suffer under unbearable burdens, a chillingly accurate prediction of what's happening in Pakistan today. If drastic economic reforms are not implemented soon, 2025 could be the year when the country's financial system completely collapses, leaving millions in a humanitarian crisis. Could this economic instability lead to an even bigger disaster? Political turmoil, a nation without stability. A strong and stable government is essential for any country's survival, but Pakistan's political landscape is in absolute chaos. The country has seen frequent leadership changes, military interventions, and corruption scandals, weakening its ability to function effectively. The removal of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in 2022 led to widespread protests, violence, and deep divisions in the country. With the military playing a powerful role in politics, the democratic process has been severely compromised, leaving Pakistanis frustrated and uncertain about their future. Nostradamus's writings speak of a nation where leaders rise and fall like shadows, unable to bring lasting peace, a prophecy that perfectly fits Pakistan's ongoing political crisis. Elections are often met with allegations of rigging, voter suppression, and external interference, creating a government that many citizens do not trust. If Pakistan continues on this unstable path, 2025 could see massive uprisings, a power struggle between political factions, or even military rule taking full control. Will Pakistan's political crisis finally reach a breaking point? Rising terrorism and internal conflicts beyond economic and political struggles, Pakistan also faces serious threats from within. The rise of terrorist groups, separatist movements, and ethnic conflicts has made the country one of the most dangerous places in the world. Groups like the Pakistani Taliban, TTP, ISIS affiliates, and Baloch separatists have carried out deadly attacks on civilians, security forces, and government institutions. With unstable borders shared with Afghanistan and India, Pakistan is constantly dealing with cross-border tensions and internal threats that weaken its security. Nostradamus predicted a land where old enemies rise again, bringing war to its doorstep, which mirrors the growing influence of terrorist groups in Pakistan. The withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan has allowed extremist groups to regain strength, and many fear that Pakistan will bear the brunt of their resurgence. If the government fails to control militant activity and rising extremism, 2025 could see an explosion of violence, pushing Pakistan into a full-blown internal conflict. Could this be the beginning of a deadly civil war? What lies ahead? Will Pakistan fall in 2025? While Pakistan is undoubtedly in one of the most fragile states in its history, there is still a chance for recovery. Economic experts argue that strict financial policies, anti-corruption measures, and better foreign relations could stabilize the economy. Political analysts believe that a democratic revival and stronger leadership could bring peace and unity. However, time is running out, and if immediate action isn't taken, Pakistan could face its worst crisis yet in 2025. Will Pakistan overcome these challenges and emerge stronger, or will it fulfill Nostradamus's chilling prophecy of a nation torn apart by its own struggles? Only time will tell. Number 3. North Korea, the isolated nation on the brink of collapse. For decades, North Korea has remained one of the most secretive and tightly controlled nations on Earth. Ruled by the authoritarian Kim dynasty, the country has survived through brutal dictatorship, economic hardships, and international sanctions. However, as Nostradamus's prophecies suggest, even the most iron-fisted rulers cannot stop the inevitable. His writings speak of a kingdom ruled by one family, growing weaker as the world turns against it, a vision that eerily aligns with North Korea's current trajectory. With economic ruin, food shortages, internal unrest, and increasing pressure from global superpowers, could 2025 mark the downfall of North Korea as we know it? Let's uncover the truth. A collapsing economy. The silent crisis. While North Korea's military displays and propaganda suggest strength, behind closed doors, the nation is on the verge of an economic catastrophe. The country has been under strict international sanctions for years due to its nuclear weapons program, cutting it off from global trade and foreign investment. Unlike other Asian nations that rely on manufacturing, tourism, or natural resources to boost their economy, North Korea's economy is almost entirely state-controlled. This means that even a small miscalculation in leadership can trigger massive consequences, something that is already happening. The COVID-19 pandemic worsened the situation when North Korea sealed its borders completely, cutting off vital trade with China, its biggest ally and economic lifeline. This led to severe shortages of food, medicine, and essential supplies, plunging the nation into an economic freefall. Despite reopening borders in 2023, inflation, lack of resources, and mismanagement continue to push the nation deeper into crisis. Nostradamus's prophecy of a land where the people grow weaker while their leaders hoard wealth is unfolding in real time. If things do not improve, 2025 could be the year when North Korea's economy finally collapses under its own weight. Food shortages and starvation, a nation on the edge of famine. One of the most alarming signs of North Korea's potential collapse is its worsening food crisis. According to reports, millions of North Koreans are facing severe hunger, and the government has struggled to provide enough food for its citizens. Crop failures, harsh weather conditions, and a lack of modern farming techniques have significantly reduced food production. At the same time, international aid organizations have little access to North Korea, making it almost impossible to help those in desperate need. Nostradamus wrote of a nation where the people cry out for food while their rulers remain blind to their suffering, a chillingly accurate description of what's happening in North Korea. Citizens have resorted to eating wild plants, tree bark, and even grass to survive, a horrifying reality that echoes the country's 1990s famine, which claimed millions of lives. If the situation continues to worsen, 2025 could bring mass starvation and a humanitarian disaster unlike anything seen before. Could this crisis finally force North Korea to change, or will it lead to something even more catastrophic? Rising tensions with the world. A dangerous gamble. North Korea's aggressive foreign policies have always been a global concern. The country continues to develop nuclear weapons, test missiles, and threaten its neighbors, particularly South Korea, Japan, and the United States. While these actions are often seen as a way for North Korea to show strength, they may actually be signs of desperation. Nostradamus hinted at a small but dangerous kingdom pushing itself into a war it cannot win. If North Korea continues its military aggression, it could provoke a serious conflict in 2025. The country's relationship with China, its closest ally, has also grown tense, with Beijing showing less willingness to support Kim Jong-un's reckless decisions. If China withdraws its backing, North Korea will be left completely isolated, increasing the chances of collapse. What lies ahead? Will North Korea finally fall? The future of North Korea remains highly uncertain, but one thing is clear: the country is weaker than ever before. With economic disaster, Food shortages, growing internal resistance, and increasing tensions with the outside world, the nation is facing one of its toughest challenges yet. Could 2025 mark the end of North Korea's current regime, or will it continue to survive against all odds? Nostradamus' prophecy suggests that great change is coming. The question is, will it be peaceful or catastrophic? Number 2. Myanmar, a nation caught in endless chaos. Myanmar, once known as Burma, is a nation rich in culture, history, and natural resources, yet it has been trapped in a cycle of political turmoil, civil war, and economic instability for decades. Nostradamus' prophecies speak of a land divided, torn apart by its own rulers, where suffering continues without end, a description that eerily fits Myanmar's current situation. Since the 2021 military coup, the country has been in a state of constant crisis, with its people struggling against military oppression, economic collapse, and armed conflict. As Myanmar enters 2025, the signs of a full-scale collapse are becoming more apparent. Could Nostradamus' predictions indicate that Myanmar is on the brink of total disintegration? Let's examine the shocking reality. A military regime losing its grip on power. Myanmar's downfall began with the military coup on February 1, 2021, when the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military, overthrew the democratically elected government. This sudden takeover sparked nationwide protests, mass arrests, and violent crackdowns, leading to one of the bloodiest conflicts in modern Southeast Asian history. The military has since ruled with brutality and terror, killing thousands of protesters, imprisoning activists, and silencing dissent. However, despite the military's oppressive rule, resistance has only grown stronger. Civilian militias, known as People's Defense Forces, PDFs, have risen up against the military, launching guerrilla-style attacks and seizing territory. These groups are now in control of large parts of the country, making it clear that the military is losing control. Nostradamus' prophecy of a ruler clinging to power as his enemies grow stronger seems to be unfolding before our eyes. Could 2025 be the year when Myanmar's military finally collapses, or will the country fall into deeper chaos? A broken economy, a nation struggling to survive. The military coup didn't just destroy Myanmar's democracy, it also shattered its economy. Once considered one of Asia's rising economies, Myanmar is now suffering from hyperinflation, mass unemployment, and foreign investment withdrawal. Businesses have shut down, banks have collapsed, and the cost of basic necessities has skyrocketed, pushing millions into extreme poverty. The national currency, the kyat, has lost over 50% of its value, and with international sanctions cutting off trade, Myanmar's economy is running on fumes. Factories are closing, foreign investors are fleeing, and even basic imports like fuel and medicine have become scarce. Nostradamus' vision of a land where people trade gold for bread is becoming a reality in Myanmar, where citizens struggle daily just to survive. If things continue this way, 2025 could be the year Myanmar's economy completely collapses, making it unlivable for millions. Could this lead to a mass refugee crisis, with citizens fleeing to neighboring countries like Thailand, India, and Bangladesh? A humanitarian catastrophe, the silent suffering of millions. While the world watches Myanmar's political chaos, the real victims are the people. Over 2 million citizens have been displaced, forced to flee their homes due to violence. Refugee camps are overflowing, and with international aid severely restricted, hunger, disease, and malnutrition are spreading rapidly. Electricity blackouts, water shortages, and medicine scarcity have turned Myanmar into one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Hospitals have been bombed, doctors have been arrested, and basic healthcare has collapsed entirely. Nostradamus spoke of a people abandoned by their own rulers, left to suffer as the world turns away, a terrifyingly accurate reflection of Myanmar today. If the crisis deepens, millions more could be forced to flee. Will 2025 see a mass exodus of Myanmar's population, similar to the Rohingya crisis of 2017, or will the world finally step in to stop the suffering? What lies ahead? Will Myanmar cease to exist as a united nation? As Myanmar moves into 2025, its future looks more uncertain than ever. The military is weaker than before, the economy is in free fall, and the resistance forces are gaining ground. Will Myanmar finally break free from military rule, or will it collapse into complete anarchy? Nostradamus's prophecy warns of a nation that will be divided, its people wandering without a home, a chilling prediction that could soon become reality. Could 2025 mark the end of Myanmar as we know it, splitting into multiple independent states, or will a new government rise from the ashes? The answer remains unclear, but one thing is certain: Myanmar is standing at the edge of a historic turning point, and the next chapter could be its most shocking yet. Number 1. China, the giant on the verge of a historic collapse. For decades, China has been seen as an unstoppable superpower, dominating global trade, technology, and military influence. With its rapid economic rise and iron-fisted political control, many believed China was too powerful to fail. However, Nostradamus's prophecies warn of a mighty empire facing internal strife, economic downfall, and rebellion from within. As we enter 2025, shocking signs suggest that China is closer than ever to a breaking point. From a collapsing real estate market to rising internal dissent, economic stagnation, and geopolitical tensions, China's stronghold is weakening. Could Nostradamus's visions of a great Eastern empire descending into chaos be referring to China? Let's uncover the shocking truth. A financial crisis. Too big to hide for years, China's booming economy was fueled by massive infrastructure projects and real estate speculation. But now, that same growth model is crumbling under its own weight. The Evergrande crisis, where one of China's largest property developers defaulted on debts exceeding $300 billion, was just the beginning. Dozens of other real estate giants are following suit, leaving behind abandoned buildings, ghost cities, and millions of citizens who invested their life savings in properties that may never be completed. Real estate accounts for about 30% of China's economy, and its collapse is dragging down the entire financial system. Banks are struggling, youth unemployment is skyrocketing, and for the first time in decades, China's economic growth is slowing dramatically. Nostradamus warned of a great empire facing ruin as its wealth turns to dust. Could China's financial meltdown be the beginning of that prophecy? If the economy continues to decline, 2025 could be the year when China faces its worst financial crisis yet, potentially leading to a global economic shock that affects the entire world, a population crisis with no solution. China's economy isn't the only thing collapsing. Its population is also shrinking at an alarming rate. The one-child policy, enforced for decades, has left China with a dangerously aging population and too few young workers. In 2023, China's population began declining for the first time in 60 years, and the trend is only accelerating. Fewer workers mean slower economic growth, rising healthcare costs, and a pension crisis that the government cannot fix. By 2050, it is expected that nearly 40% of China's population will be elderly, making it one of the oldest societies in the world. The prophecy of a once great empire growing old and weak before its time seems to be materializing before our eyes. The Chinese government is desperately trying to reverse this trend, offering incentives for families to have more children. But it's too little, too late. If China's population continues to decline at this rate, 2025 could mark the beginning of an irreversible demographic collapse, one that could spell the end of its superpower status. Taiwan conflict, the spark that could ignite war. As if internal struggles weren't enough, China is also facing rising tensions on the global stage, most notably with Taiwan. For years, China has claimed Taiwan as part of its territory and has threatened military action if Taiwan ever formally declares independence. The United States and its allies have vowed to defend Taiwan, creating one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the world. Nostradamus's writings warn of a great war rising from the east, where fire will rain from the sky, a chilling possibility if China launches an invasion of Taiwan, triggering a conflict with the United States, Japan, and other nations. As military exercises increase and war rhetoric intensifies, could 2025 be the year when China makes its move, leading to a global war? Or will economic troubles and internal instability force China to back down? Will 2025 be the year of China's collapse? With a failing economy, a shrinking population, internal unrest, and growing geopolitical tensions, China is facing a crisis on all fronts. Nostradamus predicted the fall of great empires, and many signs suggest that China's unshakable dominance may be reaching its breaking point. Will China manage to stabilize its economy and maintain its superpower status, or are we witnessing the beginning of its historic downfall? The year 2025 could be the turning point, marking either China's recovery or its collapse into chaos. One thing is certain: the world is watching, and the future of China remains uncertain like never before. Before we end, remember, history has shown us that even the mightiest empires can fall. Could Nostradamus's prophecy be coming true before our eyes? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest insights. And comment below. I embrace wisdom and clarity. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and keep seeking the truth.